The movie The Skulls captured the imagination of one of these secret societies, Skull and Bones at Yale University. The film hit the box office in 2000 as a Skull and Bones member was running for office, George W. Bush. Other members...
Absolute beginners came to Georgetown. They were wearing Harris tweed and pork pie hats. They'd slit your throat and throw you in the gutter. But it's all you can expect from men like that. The bus is bound for Niles Bending Harbor. The ladies wear perfume to scar your nose. And the only way to reach them is to scare them. But of that you know little, I suppose. It's a magical and mystical performance as you perambulate right down the road, with your pockets full of stardust and perfection, and Jesus on your side and in your soul. She had rings on every finger and 10 bracelets. Some touched with powers given by a sage. He had contemplated giving her his wristwatch. The time for him had long since gone its way. Of the city he would shuffle, while spinning on his heels and chewing beef. He had promised her he'd be a vegetarian, but he could not control his lust for meat. Some say she left the streets for greater glory, but others said that she was big with child. Whatever was the truth, it did not matter. He would hunt her down and cut her with his smile. Last time he was seen was by the pawn shop. He traded 2 gold teeth for a sack of corn, and he would plant it on the outskirts of the city as a warning that he would someday return. He said he never found her and he's still looking. It is said he searches rivers for some sign, but the truth is that he caught her down in Georgetown with a Spaniard who had left his wife behind.
Don't you wish that your weekend was longer than just 2 days? Well, if so, then you're in luck, because here on Ripon Common Sense Radio, our weekend begins on Wednesday. Yes, you heard that right. Our weekend kicks off every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, with Dark Wolf's Den, starring yours truly, Jerry the Dark Wolf. But that's where the fun has only just begun. Make sure you come back every Thursday through Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, for the Ripon Rabbit Hole Live Show, starring AJ the Ripon Rabbit. He dives into the archives of vocal legend Art Bell and brings those stories up to date. So make sure that you spend your extended weekends with the animals of radio, Jerry the Dark Wolf and AJ the Ripon Rabbit, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, every Wednesday through Sunday, right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio.
Ripon Rabbit Hole is a community-driven radio At times the community comments may reveal prejudices and other beliefs that we or our sponsors do not condone. Views or opinions expressed by the community, callers, or guests, are those of the individual speaking and do not represent the views or opinions of this site. Ripon Common Sense content is intended for mature audiences only. Enjoy.
Growing up, we were taught that everything in the past is set in stone. However, what if there were evidence to suggest that that is not really the case? Would you be interested? Well, as it turns out, that evidence may very well exist. Prepare to have your mind blown as we dig through the unknown of the Mandela Effect. Oh, yeah!
Coming to you from a secret mountain cave, hidden deep within the Idaho wilderness. This is the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Now, here is your host, Jerry Hicks.
That's right, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and this is Dark Wolf's Den. It is Wednesday, June 17th, 2020, and tonight we have a whole bunch of stuff to discuss, guys. I cannot wait for this show. As you guys know, I'm a little remiss in doing the show, but before we get started, we have a couple huge announcements. As you guys know, or may have heard from the last episode, tonight, right after the show, about an hour and a half after the show, go over to kingdomofnye.com. That is kingdomofnye.com. We're going to be joining Miss Heather Wade over there on the Kingdom of Nye radio show. We are honored that she's invited us on for a couple hours to hang out and discuss the paranormal and theories and all kind of fun stuff. As you guys know, she is, or if you guys don't know, she is a sponsor of the International Mandela Effect Conference, along with the Ripon Common Sense Radio Network. That's right, we are sponsors of the IMEC organization, the International Mandela Effect Conference, coming up June 20th to the 26th, just a couple days away, guys. And let me tell you what, it is going to be absolutely amazing. I cannot stress this enough. 15 speakers, 6 days, one event. You do not want to miss this. And to top it all off, yours truly will be giving a talk over there, but not only giving a talk, we will also be hosting the entire event. Very, very excited about that. June 20th to the 26th. And the best part, guys, it is absolutely 110% free to anybody who just wants to click on over there and watch what's going on. Over where, you may ask? That would be imec.world, IMEC.WORLD, or the International Mandela Effect Conference YouTube page. So you guys make sure you go over there to either one of those spots, June 20th to the 26th, all-day affair. We're going to be streaming a lot of great information, a lot of incredible talks from just as many incredible people. 15 speakers, 6 days, one event you do not want to miss. And that brings us to our topic tonight, which is, of course, the Mandela Effect. There's a reason I made that big a deal about the opening and the IMEC in the opening, is because we are discussing the Mandela Effect. And like I had mentioned in the opening, as we grow up, we are taught that everything we know, everything that has happened will be set in stone in the past and it cannot be changed. But in the last couple years, maybe 5 years, I've found that might not be so true of a statement. See, as most of you know, I have been for almost 30 years researching the paranormal and odd phenomenon. And it is not exactly something everyday commonplace to come up on a brand new paranormal phenomenon. That just doesn't happen. That's a once-in-a-lifetime thing if you're actually able to see something like that occur in your lifetime. However, until 2015, that would have been the case for me. See, as I was sitting on my porch in 2015 and watching a video about science nonetheless, the creator mentions this little blurb about how people remember the Berenstain Bears as the Berenstein Bears. I thought in my head, are you serious? I thought it was going to explode right off of my shoulders. You see, the bears, the Berenstein Bears for me, those books I learned to read read on, okay, guys? I pride myself on reading. So this is one of the things from my childhood that was a meme. It stood out to me, and I'll tell you another reason that it stood out to me is we lived in Germany from the time I was age 3 months old to the time I was age 3 years old. And while we were in Germany, my mother used to collect German Steins. Yeah, I don't know if you guys know what those are. They're like a great big glass beer mug, basically, with a lid on it. But she was holding these, and she was cleaning them one day, holding one in her hand, and I looked over at the book sitting next to me, the Berenstain Bears, or should it be Stein? Because I know the spelling is exactly the same at this point. So I asked my mother, how are you supposed to say this word? Are Americans saying the word right, or should it be a German pronunciation? Her answer to me was, it depends on what country you're in, what the actual spelling would be, which actually taught me a lot about how you're supposed to speak with people from other countries, and it's respectful to say things within their own accent or style of saying it when you're saying like their name or maybe naming a city, something like that. And I always try to learn languages or accents so I could do that whenever I'm reading, especially reading out loud. So that really sparked, that moment sparked a lot in me. However, I would like to have thought she'd said, neither, son, it's not Stein or Steen, there's an A there, it's Stain. However, that was not the case when I was a child. It was Steen, S-T-E-I-N. And this, of course, is one of the most well-known Mandela effects. And this, it didn't take much for me to jump on, because I just knew, I was sure. As soon as I heard this YouTuber say this, I went and ran to Google. I said, oh, no, I've never in my life wrote a correction email to a YouTuber, but I'm about to start right now. I know darn well how this word's spelled. How could you get something like that wrong? Did you not check Google? So I checked Google. Turns out I'm still looking for that evidence to this day. I cannot find the Berenstain Bears anymore, at least no legit copies. I've seen a lot of remakes, some really good remakes too, but I've never seen a legit copy. I think the VHS tape that was found may be legit. Of course, that's claimed to be a misprint, but, I don't believe it is at all. But is that the only example of the Mandela Effect? Because if it was just something that simple, maybe I could let that go. But let's talk about the original. Why does it get called the Mandela Effect? This is because a large group of people, and that is important, and we'll discuss that here in a minute, but a large group of people remember Nelson Mandela dying in the 80s, late 80s. I know I remember it in 88 or 89 myself. However, Mandela did not die until 2013, and I would see him getting off planes and stuff like on newsreels, things like that, and think, oh, that must be Mandela Jr., because Mandela passed away when I was a child, It only made sense to me. It must have been his son, and they just must have dropped the name Jr. Turns out I was actually seeing Nelson Mandela himself getting off these planes and in these newsreels and whatnot, because Nelson Mandela, even though he had died for me when I was about 8 or 9 years old, was alive until I was 23, and I still don't understand how, 33, and I still don't understand how that's even possible. But what I really don't understand is why there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands, and if I dare say millions of people that remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison. Now, Art Bell actually spoke about this years ago. I want to say in the 90s, maybe late 90s. I can't remember exactly the year. Our buddy AJ, the Ripon Rabbit over there with the Art Bell archive, would probably know exactly what year it was. But sometime in the 90s, Art Bell spoke about him remembering Nelson Mandela dying, as well as getting a lot of calls that night about that. And turns out Mandela was still alive at the time. Really tripped Art out. But what was really trippy is Cynthia Sue Larson in 2001 actually also went on Art Bell and was discussing, if I'm not mistaken, how Mandela was thought to have been dead, but yet was still alive. And I don't know, I can almost chalk that up to fake news of the time, but I still have an issue believing that that was the case, especially when you couple it with the Berenstain Bears. And again, one or two examples, so what? You're making a mountain out of a molehill, Jerry. Not exactly. There's a whole lot more. How about Jiffy peanut butter? A lot of these are going to sound trivial, but I want you to keep in mind as you listen to the rest of this episode and these, quote, trivial, end quote, examples, that how many grains of sand does it take to make a beach? 1 or 2 grains of sand we can all agree is not a beach. A small pile of sand we agree is not a beach, but how much evidence does it take? How many grains of sand does it take before it's just overwhelming and you call it a beach or too much evidence to ignore? We're going to go through quite a bit of that in the first half, and in the second half we'll get into the theories and ideas of why this may be happening. But back to one of our examples, another one of my favorite examples, and that is Jiffy peanut butter once again. How many of you guys remember Jiffy peanut butter? There was Skippy and there was Jiffy. As a matter of fact, I even remember the little jingle, lunch in a jiffy. You know, moms can make lunch in a jiffy, and I always wish it when moms could make it, was just lunch in a jiffy. But it would always show the mother, you know, remember the old 80s commercials, those of you who are old enough to remember anyway. If not, there's a lot of them on YouTube. Then, you know, had the mother making the sandwiches for the kids and talking about how nutritious it is and how easy it is and how quick, and, you know, lunch in a jiffy. Well, it turns out that slogan never existed because that product has never, ever existed. It's always been JIF. End of story. Full stop. Nothing after, nothing before. JIF. Now, it does have that same color banner behind it. The color banner actually has not changed any kind of, as I know of. But the words Jiffy peanut butter has never been an item. Ever, ever, ever. It's always been JIF. And go ahead and raise your hand or give yourself a claw marker or put a 1 in the chat room, I guess, if you remember Jiffy opposed to Jif, because I remember Jiffy. Okay, so now we've got Nelson Mandela himself, who has passed away in prison in the 1980s, then came back to life and passed away again in 2013 for some of us. And then you've got Berenstein Bears, which again was a meme in my life. I have an anchor memory for that. And an anchor memory, before we go much further, is a memory that is got like a special event tied around it, something that is just kind of always stuck with you or always sticks out in your mind. There's no way you could ever get that wrong, no matter what. You know what I mean? You know that you know that, you know, like your own name, for instance. But we'll get into that later. Just do something that you know that you know. That's the point I'm making. But there are a bunch more examples. Like Ed McMahon. Here's another great example. Everybody remembers Ed McMahon. He used to be on the Johnny Carson show. He was a sidekick. I used to love Johnny Carson, by the way. Hilarious guy. Great comedian. But so was Ed McMahon. And Ed McMahon had a couple other jobs. He worked for a company that was like a sweepstakes company. And there were a couple of them. I want you to think about this real quick. Go ahead and put in chat if you haven't already, because I'm sure a couple of you already have. Go ahead and put in chat what company Ed McMahon worked for that gave out money. And I'm not even going to try to prime anything, just what company that gave out money did Ed McMahon work for? Because a whole lot of us remember Ed McMahon working for a company called Publishers Clearinghouse. However, Publishers Clearinghouse has a little issue with that. They cannot figure out why everybody in the world associates Ed McMahon with their product, because according to them, Ed never worked for Publishers Clearinghouse. No. Ed worked for American Family Publishers. Now that is a completely different company. It's a company started by Dick Clark. Now I don't remember Dick Clark having a sweepstakes company, for one. But even if that was the case and I missed it, I was a child, fair enough. I remember the envelope that used to come in the mail from the Publishers Clearinghouse had Ed McMahon's profile in shadow form. I will never forget that because my parents hated Publishers Clearinghouse, and I do not say that with exaggeration. I mean, they seriously hated Publishers Clearinghouse. They would yell and rip it up and throw it in the trash and remind me of how it was a scam and you had to buy something. They could not stand those mail order scams, and they made that very clear every chance that they got. But Ed McMahon was huge for me as far as that goes, because I remember anyway, he would do the commercials with him handing out the big check and the balloons with the prize patrol, and it was a big thing that Ed McMahon would come to your house and give you a big check. Now, either everybody in America got this wrong at the exact same time, or he worked for that company. Now, here's what makes it really weird. All of us had to get this wrong the exact same way 30 years ago or so, 20 or 30 years ago, probably longer than that for some, and then all of a sudden misremember which company he worked for, carry that with us for 30 years, independently have this false memory, if that's what they want to claim. Now, bear with me, guys. Don't throw me off the channel yet. I know I said the bad word, false memory. Bear with me. The point is, if Ed McMahon didn't work for Publishers Clearinghouse, we all have this memory, this, quote, false memory, that we all falsely, quote, got at the exact same time for whatever reason, the exact same memory. We held this memory for 30 years. And then, after about 30 years, all just happened to come together and agree that we have the exact same, quote, mismemory, end quote. That, the odds of that happening are galactic, to say the least. And that's on the best day. So you tell me. And there's even more, speaking of galactically insane. How about the North Pole being gone? That's right. Hey, do you remember when you were a child? Think of your globe. Think of the globe you used to have in school, or the one you maybe had in your bedroom. I had one in my bedroom. I remember the top and bottom of the globe were pretty much the exact same color. They had a great big white area covering the top and the bottom. Turns out that globe has never existed in all of the history of mankind. You cannot find that globe, trust me. I went searching again a little while back. The North Pole has never existed on a globe or on the map at all, period. Hands down, end of story. And I find that very, very, very odd myself, because it's, whether it was there or not is one thing, but I remembered that the actual white thing existed on the globe itself, and the globe with a white top has never been made, ever. I can't find it. It cannot be found. I've looked on antique globes. I've looked everywhere that I know to look. I can't find the one even I used to own. Found one looks almost identical to it, but there's no white at the top, and apparently that's never been on a map. And speaking of maps, I've got one more for you. How about South America? Go ahead, guys, if you haven't already, especially those who don't believe me. I know some of you already know about this, but for those who are, I know there's somebody sitting out there right now whose head is about to explode because they think I'm making stuff up. So let's try another one. Let's go to South America on the map. And I want you to look at South America opposed to North America. And just tell me yourself if that looks right. I asked Miss Wade a couple of these questions. Matter of fact, I had her pull up the map and just point out things to me that didn't look right. And I'll be darned if she did not independently. She independently pointed out everything that the community has also pointed out. So if there's some independent verification for you, I never goaded her, never ever once primed her, or really give any kind of example whatsoever. Just, hey, can you look at this and tell me if it looks different than you remember? So go ahead and look at South America. Tell me, do you remember Chile being under Florida? Because that's a little wrong to me. I remember Chile being closer to like under California, not under Florida. It's moved about 1,000 or so plus miles, maybe more than that, to the east, and I can't explain why or how this has happened. So that's another example of the map Mandela effects. And there's one more. What was the land down under, guys? What was the furthest, lowest landmass besides Antarctica? Just up from Antarctica, what was the next landmass going left to right on a globe? I know a lot of you just said Australia, of course, it's the land down under. However, you would be very surprised if you said that to find out that New Zealand is the lowest landmass. Now, New Zealand is under Australia, which, number one, I don't remember New Zealand being the lowest landmass. Number two, why isn't it called the land down under? Number three, I don't remember Australia being pushed up to the head right against Papua New Guinea. I mean, it's not very far away from New Guinea at all. And maybe some of you do, and that's pretty common within, the population in general. There's a portion of us that see these things, and there's a portion of us that don't. But I believe that there's something that everybody, at one point or another, will be like, wait a minute. But it brings me to another point. What makes a Mandela effect? Now, if I just point and say I don't remember something this way, does that make it a Mandela effect? Some would argue that it's a personal Mandela effect, but let's go over the definition of a Mandela effect real quick. The Mandela effect is where a large group of people remember something the exact same way, but that does not match reality. Now, the important part here, as I pointed out a minute ago, is a large group of people. That is what's missing with a lot of these. That is what, in my opinion, would validate a Mandela effect. A large group of people all agree, yes, it was this way, even though history says it was never that way. And that's something else that is strange about the Mandela effect, is the retroactivity of the Mandela effect. From the moment it was conceived, whatever it was, whether it was a Bible verse or a map or Jiffy peanut butter, from the moment of its inception, it was always what it is now, even though we remember it being something else. These are not company logo changes and product changes and things like that. Go look it up. Do the research. Nothing exists as we remember it when it comes to these things like Jiffy peanut butter or the North Pole actually being on a globe or Ed McMahon working for Publishers Clearinghouse, which for some reason he never did. And I still don't quite understand or comprehend that. And there's one more. I spoke of the Bible a minute ago. That's right, the Bible has been affected. I couldn't believe it when the Christians jumped on board. That just really mind-boggled me. But the Bible is affected. So what am I talking about? How many remember the verse, "The lion shall lie down with the lamb"? And I know some of you are going, well, I'm not really religious. I'm not really Christian. Come on. You have even, I'm sure, heard the verse, "The lion shall lie down with the lamb," or the Lion and Lamb Ministries, or Lion and Lamb. Lion and Lamb is pretty much a well-known common thing. However, if you look in your Bible in Isaiah 11:6, it does not say the lion shall lie down with the lamb. It says the wolf shall lie down with the lamb. And as proud and honored as I am to be honored in the Bible as a wolf, I don't mean me, guys, I'm just joking on that. But seriously, a wolf laying down with the lamb. Yes, this does make more sense as far as nature, predator, prey. I will agree with that statement, yes. However, that is not the words that used to be there. Whether it makes sense or not isn't the question. The question is, did it used to say lion would lay down with the lamb, or the wolf shall dwell with the lamb? Not even lying down, shall dwell with the lamb. I don't remember that particular verse being in the King James Bible. And when I speak of these, I am only speaking of the King James Bible. I understand that there are about 90 other translations of the Bible. I get that. But everything we're doing off the King James, and that's what I personally grew up reading, and I'm sure most everybody that I know grew up reading. Of course, there were some that grew up reading the New International and these different versions, and I get that. Again, to be fair, I get that. But we're not talking about translation issues between Bibles. We're talking about translation issues between realities. That's right, realities. I don't understand how the lion shall lay down with the lamb became the wolf shall dwell with the lamb. It just doesn't even make sense. And how could the Bible change? Of all things, it has always seemed off to me that the Bible has changed. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem right. It just seems, just with all the other effects. And again, I'm rambling at this point, so I'm going to bring it back around to the Bible one more time in the Lord's Prayer. How do you guys remember the Lord's Prayer? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth or in earth. According to the book, it's in earth as it is in heaven. I remember being on earth as it is in heaven, but there's more. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our, what? Our debts, our trespasses, our sins. What is it? I remember it being, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. However, it looks like the King James Bible has always read, forgive us our debts, as we forgive those who have debted against us. And that, though keeping the semi-bit of same meaning, is still a little different. And I don't really know what to say on this because I'll be honest, I've seen it both ways in a Bible, and I sometimes wonder if I haven't seen it both ways in the same Bible. I may have been watching what's called flip-flops for quite a while, and flip-flops are the last thing we're going to cover before we hit the break here shortly. Flip-flops are a really, really strange part of this phenomenon. So a lot of people say it's mismemory. You're just misremembering. You didn't remember it right. That's just, it's just natural. It happens. Well, that doesn't explain a flip-flop. What a flip-flop is, we've all experienced a couple big ones in the community. But let's take, for instance, Costco. Costco lost the T for a little while. And I don't mean the Costco like the brand of baby wear and car seats and things. I'm aware of those. I mean Costco, the store that you shop at, turned into Costco, the store that you shop at. And this lasted for a little over 2 weeks, maybe even 3. And then all of a sudden, the T that had disappeared came back to reality as if it had been there the entire time. And understand, I work in a field in which I have to ask for people's IDs. So when they pop their wallet open, I would sometimes catch their Costco card and make it a point to look. And none of them would have this T. And I was just sure that it never had the T to begin with. Well, mainly because I'd never shopped at one of those stores. Turns out it did have the T, and the T came back. That's one of the examples that has occurred. Victoria's Secret is another one that the community remembers happening. Victoria's Secret lost the apostrophe S. I called shenanigans on this because, in my opinion, the next word starts with an S. You'd think the last word ended with an S. You're drawing straws here, guys. And these were big people in the community at the time. I never made a video about it, but in my line, I took a hard stance. You're drawing straws. That was never the thing. I went and grabbed evidence, storefronts, pictures of storefronts, if you will. I even went and grabbed a picture of the storefront from the city that I used to live in, just to make sure I knew what I was talking about. And within 2 weeks, guess what happened? The apostrophe S decided to come back to reality, and it became Victoria's Secret once again. And all the videos and everybody who had said it had changed, everything just disappeared as if the flip had never occurred to begin with. And yes, I've seen this happen multiple times. There's members of the community that you can ask, and they will all vouch. After the flip, or after the flop, the flip disappears. And it is one of the best cleanup jobs the Mandela Effect does, I got to say. Or, in the last flip-flop I'm going to mention, and the first flip-flop that I remember experiencing within the Mandela Effect was the Flintstones. I remember growing up watching the Flintstones. And the Flintstones made the most sense to me because, well, flint is a stone, and they're in the Stone Age, and it just all worked together in that such a way that it made sense. However, it became for a short period of time, between 2 weeks and a month, it became Flintstones. That's right, there was no T in the middle, it was just Flintstones. And there was a bunch of us in the community that are going, no, this isn't right. Well, short while later, it became Flintstones again and has been ever since. Now understand, when it was different, everything in history said the T had never existed. And then, after that, when it changed back, the T had always been there in history. It had never disappeared. And that does not qualify under mismemory by any means or standards that I know of whatsoever. But as you guys know, that music means we do have to shut our mouth here for a second and take a network break. So we will be back right after these messages, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned right here to Ripon Common Sense Radio. Oh, yeah.
And that howl means the weekend has begun. Hi, everyone. It's AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. Give yourselves a round of applause for being smart enough to be here. If you've enjoyed the program thus far, please make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell with notifications, as we're here every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, bringing you the very best in common sense radio, the Ripon Rabbit Hole. I'll be back again tomorrow night, Thursday, June 18th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, with a look at second brains. There could be a second brain within all of us. We'll take a look at how people claim to tap it. Then Friday night, Insulted Emotions. Friday, June 19th, 2020. Have you ever been insulted? Are you insulted right now? And how have you responded? We'll take a close look at emotions that can be created from insults. That's Friday, June 19th. Then Saturday, June 20th. If you received our email, this was a mistake. It replicated Saturday night as being Friday night's Insulted Emotions. But I can tell you, Saturday night, we're going to deal with liars and cheats. You're going to want to be here Saturday, June 20th. A look at liars and cheats from a magician's point of view. How to see through the smoke and mirrors of today. Join us at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, Saturday night as we dive down that rabbit hole together. Then we'll end the weekend outright Sunday night with original thinking. Are you an original thinker? I think most of you are. So join us as we look at how to harness the power of originality within all of us. That'll end the weekend out Sunday night, June 21st, 2020, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. All shows start at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, and that'll take us into the next week, which, can you believe it? July is right around the corner. I spoke to Moneybags 73. We're going to slowly release more information about this throughout this weekend. But we have got a Mandela monthly set for you. Mark your calendars, Sunday, July 5th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Co-host Moneybag 73 will be here, and we will dive through July's installment of the Mandela Monthly, which happens the first weekend of every month right here at the Ripon Rabbit Hole. We're going to be back to more Mandela Effect with Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den Show in just a moment. Stick around here on the very best of Common Sense Radio, the RiponRabbitHole.com.
Hi, I'm Jerry Hicks, host of Dark Wolf's Den, right here on Ripon, Common Sense Radio. And I want to talk to you today about an organization that means a lot to me and that I am proud to be a part of. We are called IMEC Incorporated, which stands for the International Mandela Effect Conference. We are a 501c3 organization run by a team of artists, authors, and visionaries who are extremely passionate about both the Mandela Effect phenomenon as well as the community surrounding it. IMEC is united in a mission to inspire, empower, and unify all curious observers. Through evidence presented by scientists, researchers, authors, and spiritual leaders around the world, we aim to educate the community on this incredible reality-changing event known as the Mandela Effect. Our 2020 event will be held online this year, June 20th to 26th, and will be available for absolutely free, both on our website at imec.world, as well as the International Mandela Effect Conference YouTube page. For more information, please visit imec.world. That is imec.world. IMEC.WORLD. Together we go, together we grow. Are you a YouTube creator that's tired of fighting over copyright issues for using the wrong music in your videos? Or perhaps a songwriter looking for something new? I know when I started Dark Wolf's Den, I needed some original music, and for me, The answer was a no-brainer. I immediately called Tom Bayless of Red Shed Studios. Tom has been in the music industry for over 20 years and has a true passion for the art. So if you need a custom soundtrack for your next project, make sure you contact Tom Bayless at Red Shed Studios at 920-344-7634. That's 920-344-7634. Red Shed Studios. And welcome back for the second half of the Dark Wolf's Den Show. Thanks everybody for sticking around. We very, very much appreciate it. Guys, do not forget, we got a lot coming up this weekend. Thursday through Sunday, we got the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show, as you guys just heard from AJ. Make sure you pop on by and listen to that. All shows start at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. If you're just joining us tonight, we are discussing the Mandela Effect. That's right. See, the Mandela Effect for me for the last 5 years has been my main focus of research. Although I've been a paranormal researcher for all these years, I kind of dropped it about 5 years ago and studied primarily on the Mandela Effect. Then, when I started my YouTube channel, there were enough channels out there that were already discovering effects and talking about different effects and pointing them out. The community was saturated at the time with people already doing that. I didn't want to add my channel to that pile of channels that were already there. I wanted to do something just a little different. So I did what I've always been known to do within the paranormal, and that is theories. I love theories. And from the moment I found the Mandela Effect, I was theorizing. Because you remember we discussed in the reincarnation episode that I had been studying that in 2015. Well, it turns out 2015, while I was studying this, I was taking a break when I happened to watch that science video that I was watching, and it just happened to mention the Mandela Effect. Now, being the one studying reincarnation at the time, I automatically started theorizing because I had just heard the story of James, the pilot, the air fighter pilot. And if you don't remember that story, please go back and watch that reincarnation episode, or listen to that reincarnation episode, I should say. That is an amazing episode. It's got some great stories in it, but it's got the story of James the fighter pilot. And James the fighter pilot was 50 years between death and rebirth. And then the doctor I was listening to, Dr. Jim Tucker, said that the average between life and rebirth is about 18 months. And I got to thinking, why did it speed up all of a sudden? So my first theory was that there was a hole all of a sudden in the veil, as we are have come to know it as, the veil between worlds, the spirit world and this world, or other dimensions, but in this case the spirit world. And I thought if the veil even had a small hole in it, maybe this ghost found a way, or this soul found a way through. And at that point other souls started pushing through, and any small hole or small rip becomes a great big cavern eventually. So my first theory was that the veil was ripped, and that's not to say that that's a wrong theory. I just don't have evidence to prove such a thing, because it is a spiritual theory more than a physical one. However, there are some other theories that I also find quite interesting, and one of them, I decided to give the mainstream their argument, of course, and I ended up killing one of their arguments. And I can't say that I wasn't doing it on purpose, but I didn't expect to do what I did. So I was doing the research for the false memory Mandela Effect Theory Series video when I ran across confabulation. Of course, they were beating us over the head with confabulation in the beginning, and this really bothered me. But I had no argument against it. Their argument was confabulation. You're accidentally misremembering things. Fine. That's it's not fully arguable against until I did the research. They were beating us over the head with part of the definition. They were leaving out the other part. See, the only people who experienced confabulation were alcoholics, or people with something called Korsakoff's disease, or people with amnesia or schizophrenia, things like that. I don't remember having amnesia, I'm just saying. I know I say that jokingly, but after I made that video, they very rarely use the word confabulation anymore. They stopped beating us over the head with it, which I'm proud to say happened right after I put my video out. I'm not saying I'm responsible for it. I'm just saying it's a good possibility that I was responsible for stopping them from using the word confabulation every time they referenced Mandela Effect. Now they merely use the word mismemory. And I will admit, some things I do think are mismemory. And these are the ones that are like 3 or 4 people agree on. Now, that's not to say that it isn't a Mandela Effect. That is just my personal opinion. Please don't take that as set in stone. Nobody knows exactly how this works yet. We're still trying to figure it out. I don't even know all the rules of it. I'm still trying to figure it out. We are the new UFO community, guys. Remember the UFO community would say a whole lot and make a lot of claims, but couldn't produce a whole heck of a lot of evidence, but what they were saying they stood on as truth and knew to be real to them? Well, guys, the Mandela Effect community are the new UFO community, and I say that in all honesty. Not to take away from any other paranormal phenomenon, but let's be honest. This is something that the UFO community used to do, and now we're finding ourselves in the same spot saying we see something that the rest of the world claims cannot happen or exist. But let's talk about another theory. Speaking of things that aren't supposed to be able to happen or exist, we showed in one of our episodes that time travel is very, very much possible according to the laws of physics, which I love Dr. Michio Kaku for, and thank you, Dr. Kaku, if you're ever listening to this, for all the work that you do. You are appreciated. But in the time travel episode, again, we did discuss that it is possible, however, by the rules of time travel as we know them, and logic rules, not Hollywood rules, but even logic rules would dictate that if I went back and changed something in the past, from that moment forward, it would always be that way. Nobody would know it any different. And it makes no sense to me how we would have memories of things, and then the memories of things change all the way back to the inception of the product if time travel was involved. That just doesn't seem logical to me. Again, not to discount any theory, I just don't think that one's exactly the one we're looking for. It doesn't match up enough. However, there is another one, CERN. CERN is a really popular theory. And CERN is the European Nuclear Research Facility located between Switzerland and France, if I'm not mistaken, right on the border. It's a great big ring. And in this ring, they do high energy particle research, quantum research. Now, it is, of course, this researcher's opinion that very well could lead to accidental things, if not on purpose. Just seems to me that it is possible that while they're running these high energy physics experiments, that they could be altering things in reality in some way or another without even knowing they're doing it. And I'm just kind-hearted enough to say without knowing they're doing it. But I know there are some out there that will scream, no, they're doing it on purpose. They're mad scientists, and I can't say I agree or disagree. I don't have enough evidence, and I don't know them to say they're one way or the other, but I do know that the theory says that CERN, when they're running their high energy particle experiments, are accidentally or on purpose causing Mandela Effect changes in reality. And that is one possible answer. Another theory, and another one that is really interesting, is dimensional shifting. And this brings me to something that we covered in the time travel episode, also called the Theseus paradox. And this is the idea that if you have a boat and you replace every piece of the boat piece by piece, one by one, when you have the boat all together and all the pieces are brand new, is it the same boat you began with, or is it a different boat? And the question lies in even further, if you take all the old pieces and rebuild another boat from the pieces that you had, would that be the boat that you used to have, or is that a different one? Now, the reason that comes into play is with the Mandela Effect. With things changing in reality, how many things have to change in reality before reality isn't the same one you began with? Whether you're actually moving dimensions or not, if the dimension around you is changing, that in and of itself is enough to say that it's different. It is a different reality, a different dimension than what you began in. And I know that's stretching it just a little bit, but there's also the idea that people are literally shifting through dimensions, or we are literally shifting from one dimension to another, one earth to another, sometimes overnight and almost instantly, or if not absolutely instantly. Now, everybody knows I've made no two ways about this not being my favorite theory. I think it sounds a little bit sci-fi-ish and a little far-fetched. However, the evidence absolutely suggest that this is the case. And another piece of evidence that I did forget to mention in the first half is called residue. This is a very, very important bit of evidence because for some reason, every now and again, there are things that are the way we remember them, even though they weren't supposed to exist in this reality to begin with. This is residue. And there's a couple things about residue where we have to be really, really careful. Newspapers alone are not good residue. Yes, they are good examples when coupled with something else. But newspapers are notorious for misspellings. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest with ourselves. I can't count the times I've read an article and wish I was the one editing it because I would have a field day with some of these writers. But if you can couple this with other pieces of evidence that also back up your claim, then that's, a little bit more on the nose for evidence, in my opinion. Because remember, Carl Sagan said, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And I've been doing my best for the last 5 years to find evidence and ways to prove that the Mandela Effect, to me, I know at least, is a real phenomenon, as well as to millions, I dare say, of people worldwide. And it's been recently that I'm noticing more and more people are running across this Mandela Effect. And it's something that I can't explain, and neither can magicians. You remember in the show we did last week on the skull experiment, we spoke about magicians and how it's great for a paranormal researcher to have magicians and illusionists on their side. And in my opinion, that is probably the wisest thing, because as I was talking to a magician about this a little while back, and of course we know our buddy AJ with the Ripon Rabbit over the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show here on the Ripon Common Sense Radio Network. He is also a very accomplished magician, and among others, I've talked to him, and he was telling me that it's common for people to misremember certain things at the end of a magic show. That's very common. But the one thing that does not happen is for people to misremember things the exact same way. You don't have everybody in the audience come up to you and tell you, oh, I remember, or I liked how you made the egg appear in the chair, when actually the magician made it appear in his other hand. Every now and then a person might get confused, but for every single member of the audience to get confused the exact same way is never happened in the history of magic shows, to the best of my knowledge, and talking to magicians, again, not just AJ, but other that I know. And it's really, really interesting, because psychologists and psychiatrists, which I wouldn't suggest talking about the Mandela Effect to your psychiatrist or psychologist, I'm just saying, but one part that they cannot explain, even though they claim it is mismemory or false memory, they cannot explain why everybody remembers it exactly the same way. For instance, everybody remembers Jiffy peanut butter, Jiffy. Nobody remembers Jiffi or Jiffie or Jifie or all these millions of different spellings, or even the Berenstein Bears. No one claims they remember double E instead of EI, or II, or EE, or any other odd, double E, I repeated that one, gotcha. Or any other odd spelling like that. They all claim the exact same memory, and this happens over and over and over again. Like the Statue of Liberty. What island is the Statue of Liberty on? I'll give you 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. What island is the Statue of Liberty on? Would you believe me if I told you it was called Liberty Island? That's right, Liberty Island. I always remember Ellis Island as being where the Statue of Liberty was, and where the immigrants would land and get their citizenship. However, that's never been the case. The Statue of Liberty has always been in the New Jersey harbor, not the New York harbor, New Jersey harbor in Liberty Island, and that is really strange to me, because I don't remember that. I remember it being on Ellis Island, within sight of the World Trade Centers that is no longer there. And if some of you are old enough to remember JFK and actually may have been there at the time, or are old enough to remember when it did happen on the television, then you might remember the Zapruder film, Zapruder, Zapruder film. It was the one film that we had of the incident that happened in Texas, right? Well, what do you remember the film being? Was it black and white or was it color? Was Jackie holding the president's head to the side, or was he riding along and something just suddenly happened? A lot about the Zapruder film that I remember is as I just described. However, the Zapruder film is actually a color film. It's never been in black and white that I can find anymore. According to history, the Zapruder film has always been a color film, and it's always had Jackie pulling the president's head down before the gunshot goes off and the incidents occur. And then I swear it looks like there's something that she does when she climbs out of the back of the car. And this is not the way any of us in the community remember it. How do you remember JFK? As a matter of fact, how many people were in the car when JFK was assassinated? I'll give you 5 seconds to tell me how many people were in that car. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What if I told you there were 6 people in the car when JFK was killed? Yes, that's right. 6 people in the car. I don't remember 6 people in the car. However, it was the driver, Secret Service agent, Governor Connolly, and his wife, Jackie, and the president. The problem is the setup that I remember only had 4 people. Governor Connolly, the Secret Service driver, the president, and Jackie, because at one point, one of the theories was that the Secret Service driver had turned around and done it to the president. The problem is this could have never been accomplished in a 6-seater car like we had in the incident. So there's no way, in my opinion, that could have even been a theory if the history was the way we remember it. However, history itself, its very self is completely different. And if you don't believe me, if you remember the black and white Zapruder film, please, I beg of you, show me, find it. I would love to see it again because it has disappeared from reality and existence. The Zapruder film has never actually existed in this reality whatsoever at all. And that is another huge Mandela effect. What do you remember? Go check it out. Prove it to yourself. Don't take my word for it. Don't trust that I just sat here and told you that. Go look it up for yourself after the show. Tell me, prove me wrong. Because I want to be proved wrong. I want to find this kind of stuff. I want to know that this isn't right. Because I can't find any evidence to prove that the Mandela Effect is anything but one of the most real and amazing phenomena that I've run across as a paranormal researcher in almost 30 years. And I found it at about the 25-year mark, 23-year mark, somewhere in there. Anyway, yes, 23-year mark, because I'm only in 28 years exactly. I always say I'm near 30. I've got exactly 28 years. So, one thing I gotta say, if you're a person who is just hearing about the Mandela Effect and just hearing the idea that reality itself can literally change on a dime, I beg of you, don't be scared. This is the most thrilling and fascinating and exciting thing to ever happen to mankind. And I beg of you again, don't be scared. Have no fear. This is one of the best things ever. And that is the advice that I could give to anybody who is just finding the Mandela Effect. Because it can be scary. It really can. There are people I've heard stories of that sat on a couch for a day, maybe 2 or 3 days, and just rocked back and forth, up to a week, wondering what happened to reality. Are they even going to exist tomorrow? And it is crazy. And don't get cynical, I beg of you also. A lot of people get to the point where, oh, it don't matter, it can change tomorrow. Well, one thing I've noticed is not every single thing in reality changes, and that's something I can't quite comprehend or understand yet. And there's a lot of us researching this that they can't give you all the answers. This is literally a 5-year-old paranormal phenomenon. This is, as it is, a baby phenomenon. This is brand new. People are still catching on to what it actually is and just hearing about it for the first time. And I just cannot fathom that. It blows my mind because I've known about it for so long, of course. And I take for granted that I know so much about the paranormal. I've known so much for so long that I just assume everybody else does. And it turns out not many people do at all. I will tell you, in the job that I have, my other day job, if you will, I work with the public and I have to ask for IDs, things like that. And I get a chance to talk to the customers and, kind of joke and talk with them. Well, one thing that I brought up here recently to every customer almost that I get is, this just isn't the same reality that I started in. And back last year when I would say that, I would get some pretty odd, funny looks. Now when I say that, people cannot be quick enough to agree with me because it just seems the reality that we're living in today, the state of the world today is just a little different. Okay, it's really different than the world that I remember growing up in. And I'm sure the rest of you can agree with that. And that's about as far as I'm going to go speaking on current events right now. But speaking of current events and being new to the Mandela Effect, if you are, or even if you're a seasoned veteran, we have something that you are not going to want to miss. And that is the Mandela Effect Conference, the International Mandela Effect Conference coming up. And the reason this means so much to me, guys, I'm going to come clean. I am, if you don't know, one of the founders of the International Mandela Effect Conference, along with a team of people, Cynthia Sue Larson, Christopher Anatra, Lauren Cannell Pavelka, Kimberly Lynn Hansen, and Shane Robinson of Unbiased and On the Fence. And together we formed the IMEC organization, a 501c3 non-for-profit organization whose goal is to educate and do research on the Mandela Effect through conferences and events in order to get the word out to the entire world of this incredible reality-changing event. And I could not be more proud to be not only one of the founders, but the treasurer of the board of the IMEC organization. And these guys are all about the Mandela Effect community. Everything they do is for the community. Like what they're doing June 20th to the 26th this year, and that would be the second annual International Mandela Effect Conference. It has 15 speakers, 6 days, one event, incredible. I'm going to be emceeing the event myself. I am very proud to announce that, as well as giving a talk, as we'd said in the first half. Also, we've got a lot of amazing people. Regina Meredith, whom you guys heard on AJ's Ripon Rabbit Hole live show last Friday night. She will be our keynote speaker this year. As you guys remember, Cynthia Sue Larson was our keynote speaker last year. Regina Meredith of Gaiam TV will be here this year. Also, we've got a shaman. That's right. We've been able to get a shaman to come speak with us. That is something that I cannot tell you how much I'm looking forward to. A lady named Jen Ingalls Smith. You do not want to miss this. Also, Shane Robinson, Eileen Colts, and that's just to name a few, guys. I can't even remember all the names. There's so many. I'm telling you, there's a list. 15 speakers, 6 days, one event. You do not want to miss. And the best part, it is absolutely free. They are doing this completely free. They're not asking for a penny, not a single penny. All of this is for your benefit, absolutely free, to spread the knowledge and information of the Mandela Effect. And of course, the Ripon Rabbit Hole, Ripon Common Sense Radio are sponsors of the International Mandela Effect Conference, and we will definitely be there. We cannot wait to see all of you June 20th to the 26th. And you can get them, if you really, really want to see it, and we beg that you do, over at imec.world, that is imec.world, as well as the International Mandela Effect Conference YouTube page. I cannot be more proud of this program, of this organization, and to be a part and a founding member of this, guys. I can't stress enough, everything we do is for the community, is for you guys, is for the education and research and real looking into these topics. So definitely, guys, make sure you check that out. Please, please, please. It really would mean the world to us. We're not asking for a penny. We're not charging. We're doing this for your benefit, for the benefit of the community and the world. Also, coming up tonight, guys, don't forget, an hour and a half after this show, an hour and a half, that's it. I will be on the Kingdom of Nye radio network with Heather Wade. Miss Heather's invited us over for a couple hours of chatting about the paranormal and the theories and all the things I've studied over the last 30 plus years. So we are proud to announce here in the den that we will be over there in about an hour and a half after the show ends. So what do you guys think? Could it be real? Is it a psyop? Is it a fake? Is the government messing with our heads again? Is it subliminal messaging and programming maybe? Or could it just perhaps be that history itself and everything around us at some point could and is subject to change due to something called the Mandela Effect? You be the judge. Oh, yeah. But before we go tonight, guys, I have a very, very, very special surprise. I have requested from a friend of mine who is a musical artist the ability to use his music this evening to end the show out with, at least for the last segment of the show. So I know everybody likes a different type of music. This is a member of our community, our Mandela Effect community, and he has put this together independently. So I'm going to go ahead and give him a shot and a shout out. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Juanito. Yeah.
Sex in the City? Nope. Interview with a Vampire? Nope. If you build it, they will come? Febreze? Tweeze in the middle? Wrong again. Depends. Nope. Welcome to the Twilight Zone, my friends. A phenomenon known as the Mandela Effect. You may have heard of it. You may want to not neglect. Unbecoming, awake, and spiritually inclined. So sit back, relax, while I blow your mind. Take the thumb off the cell, stop following the sheep. Down the rabbit hole we go. Are you ready for that leap? The Zapruder film, #JFK. I looked at the footage and I said, what the hey? How come there are 6 people in that dang car? Stretch limo, for me, this was all too bizarre. A glass behind the driver, no way, Jose. I remember before the car, my mind was in total disarray. Trying to make sense of what I was seeing, what I was witnessing. Didn't connect with my inner being. A second woman in the car for me was only the first lady. Do you smell what the rock is cooking? All this seemed kinda shady. Berenstein Bears. Nope. Shazam? Sinbad? Not in this reality. Good lord. An awakening. Was it all a revelation? The naysayers and skeptics call it confabulation. They say we misremembered and call it crazy. Did you smoke a doob? Maybe that's why it's a little bit hazy. Unless you experience it, you'll never know. But enough of that. On with this Mandela Effect flow. Mandela Effect in the house. What if the world happened to Ed McMahon? In this reality, Publishers Clearinghouse was not a fan. Never the spokesperson, but we remember it clear as day. McMahon holding that check while the winner yelled out, yay! American Family Publishers, never heard of them until now. This Mandela Effect has me raising the people's eyebrow. So many theories on what it could be. Have you ever heard of CERN and the LHC? Luke, I am your father. Nope. Sally Fields? Nope, wrong again. That stands for the Large Hadron Collider. I thought I would mention. You know, the machine that opens up portals into different dimensions? You're probably thinking that this is all science fiction, but you gotta think outside the box and have no restrictions. Alternate realities and parallel dimensions. Okay, I get some of your apprehensions. Could this all be a spiritual evolution? Cause the human race has grown tired of this toxic pollution. Mandela Effect in the house. No, I'm not going crazy. Some people, they just don't understand. That's just the way it is. You know? Stay strong, my friends. That's just the way it is. Dolly has no braces? Are you serious? Good lord. Joel Osteen. Oh wait, Joel Osteen. So what the heck happened to the owl? Oh my gosh. Oh, this is definitely the Twilight Zone. This is crazy.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Juanito, 1975. We very, 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 very much appreciate that, my friend. Guys, final thoughts for tonight. The Mandela Effect is a very real, very intriguing phenomenon that is just in its infancy and only beginning to really be understood and known by anyone in this world. Second off, tonight, guys, don't forget, we will be back on the radio waves here in about an hour and a half on Miss Heather Wade and the Kingdom of Nye radio show. So we're really looking forward to that. Again, about an hour and a half after the end of this show. And last but not least, the Mandela Effect Conference, the International Mandela Effect Conference will start June 20th and end June 26th. And it's going to be 15 speakers, 6 days, one event we cannot wait for. Guys, the din may be closing, but don't you worry. The weekend fun has only just begun. Come back Thursday through Sunday right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio for the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show starring our buddy AJ the Ripon Rabbit. I happen to know that this week he is going to be talking about Friday insulted emotions. Have you ever had your emotions insulted? Maybe you'd like to listen to this episode. And on Sunday, he will be discussing original thinking. Original ideas are always the best, and maybe you can find a couple ways that you can come up with some originality on your own. That is the Ripon Rabbit Hole live show, ladies and gentlemen, Thursday through Sunday, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio. Every show starts at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, make sure you go over to the riponrabbithole.com. That is RIPONRABBITHOLE.com. Over there we got all kind of fun stuff like the on-air schedule that will be presented every week, and that'll be what's coming up live. Also, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you go check out the rabbit holes, also known as the groups over there. We've got our Dark Wolf's Den Show group, as well as the Dark Wolf's Den Show's topics and suggestions group. We would love to hear what you want to hear from us. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and I'm about to go over to my favorite hangout, also known as the 24/7 VIP Backstage Lounge. You can easily get to that if you click on the 24/7 Backstage Lounge link about halfway down the page underneath the regular text chat. You will find a spot to enter a VIP cam chat, where you'll have to approve your camera and microphone, but after that you can turn both those off and gladly join us in the text chat, as there are some people that do that every day. Ladies and gentlemen, I, once again, am Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and this is Dark Wolf's Den. Remember always, stay awake, but dare to dream. Oh, yeah. Don't you touch that dial. That's right.
Can you believe it's the weekend already? Did you enjoy that? Jerry Hicks, the Dark Wolf's Den Show, a special look at the Mandela Effect. If you enjoyed the program this evening, make sure to thumb up that video, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell. You'll get the notifications every time we go live. Jerry Hicks and the Dark Wolf's Den Show will return next Wednesday as he continues to howl at the paranormal. If you haven't done so already, make sure to get on our mailing list by visiting riponrabbithole.com. You'll get our weekend schedule and the topics Jerry and myself cover throughout the weekend every Wednesday morning. And mornings are like weekends around here. While you're there, check out the community-generated press. You'll find a lot of really cool areas like the Ripon Rabbit Holes that will dive down into a bunch of subjects. There you'll find Jerry Dark Wolf's Den group, as well as an International Mandela Effect Conference group, and even Moneybag 73, along with Juanito, 1975, a new rap star. Oh my goodness, that was so awesome. Put a 1 in the chat room if you enjoyed Juanito 1975's Mandela Effect rap this evening. A Ripon Rabbit Hole exclusive. Unreal. Loved it. You'll also want to make sure that you check out the VIP 24/7 lounge chat area there. It's very easy to do. Now, there's 2 different areas, a text-based and a camera and microphone. Now, you don't have to share that with the room to come in. You do have to configure it, but you can turn it off before you actually enter the room and just communicate by text alone back there. It's a lot of fun. I know Jerry will be back there in just a few moments after the show, where the conversation continues in the VIP chat lounge at riponrabbithole.com. It's a lot of fun. I'll be back again tomorrow night with a look at the second brain. That's right, that's Thursday, June 18th, 2020. There could be a second brain within all of us. We'll take a look at how people claim to tap it. Then Friday night, Insulted Emotions, Friday, June 19th. 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central. Have you ever been insulted? How did you respond? We'll take a close look at emotions that can be created from insults. And then there was a mistake on the mailing that went out. Saturday night is actually going to be a look at liars and cheats from a magician's point of view. You'll want to join me Saturday, June 20th, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, for a dive down the rabbit hole of liars and cheats. A common sense Ripon Rabbit Hole expose. That's a look at the weekend ahead. Until we meet again, I'm AJ, the Ripon Rabbit. Take care of yourselves and each other. Good night.
Hi, I'm Jerry Hicks, host of Dark Wolf's Den, right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio. And I want to talk to you today about an organization that means a lot to me and that I am proud to be a part of. We are called IMEC Incorporated, which stands for the International Mandela Effect Conference. We are a 501c3 organization run by a team of artists, authors, and visionaries who are extremely passionate about both the Mandela Effect phenomenon as well as the community surrounding it. IMEC is united in a mission to inspire, empower, and unify all curious observers. Through evidence presented by scientists, researchers, authors, and spiritual leaders around the world, we aim to educate the community on this incredible reality-changing event known as the Mandela Effect. Our 2020 event will be held online this year, June 20th to 26th, and will be available for absolutely free, both on our website at imec.world, as well as the International Mandela Effect Conference YouTube page. For more information, please visit imec.world. That is imec.world. IMEC.WORLD. Together we go, together we grow. Are you a YouTube creator that's tired of fighting over copyright issues for using the wrong music in your videos? Or perhaps a songwriter looking for something new? I know when I started Dark Wolf's Den, I needed some original music, and for me, the answer was a no-brainer. I immediately called Tom Bayless of Red Shed Studios. Tom has been in the music industry for over 20 years and has a true passion for the art. So if you need a custom soundtrack for your next project, make sure you contact Tom Bayless at Red Shed Studios at 920-344-7634. That's 920-344-7634. Red Shed Studios. Don't you wish that your weekend was longer than just 2 days? Well, if so, then you're in.
settlers came to Georgetown. They were wearing Harris tweed and pork pie hats. They'd slit your throat and throw you in the gutter. But it's all you can expect from men like that. The bus is bound for Niles Bending Harbor. The ladies wear perfume to scar your nose, and the only way to reach them is to scare them. But of that you know little, I suppose. It's a magical and mystical performance as you perambulate right down the road, with your pockets full of stardust and perfection, and Jesus on your side and in your soul. She had rings on every finger and 10 bracelets, some touched with powers given by a sage. He had contemplated giving her his wristwatch. The time for him had long since gone its way. Of the city he would shuffle, while spinning on his heels and chewing beef. He had promised her he'd be a vegetarian, but he could not control his lust for meat. Some say she left the streets for greater glory, but others said that she was big with child. Whatever was the truth, it did not matter. He would hunt her down and cut her with his smile. Last time he was seen was by the pawn shop. He traded 2 gold teeth for a sack of corn, and he would plant it on the outskirts of the city as a warning that he would someday return. He said he never found her and he's still looking. It is said he searches rivers for some sign, but the truth is that he caught her down in Georgetown with a Spaniard who had left his wife behind.
Don't you wish that your weekend was longer than just 2 days? Well, if so, then you're in luck, because here on Ripon Common Sense Radio, our weekend begins on Wednesday. Yes, you heard that right. Our weekend kicks off every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, with Dark Wolf's Den, starring yours truly, Jerry the Dark Wolf. But that's where the fun has only just begun. Make sure you come back every Thursday through Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, for the Ripon Rabbit Hole Live Show, starring AJ the Ripon Rabbit. He dives into the archives of vocal legend Art Bell and brings those stories up to date. So make sure that you spend your extended weekends with the animals of radio, Jerry the Dark Wolf and AJ the Ripon Rabbit, starting at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10/9 Central, every Wednesday through Sunday, right here on Ripon Common Sense Radio.